welcome to this episode of the Instant Impact Podcast. I am your host, Elyse Archer, and I have probably one of the most unique, insightful, and innovative people that I know on the show today for you. And I want to just start off by kind of teeing up what we're going to talk about by asking you a very simple question, and it is this: how often are you frustrated by social media? So I want you to just think back over even the past week. How many times have you been frustrated because you put out a piece of content and you didn't get the likes that you were looking for? Or you looked online and you saw that one of your competitors, who quite frankly isn't as good as you at what you do, is getting more engagement, getting more shares, getting more attention. And how often have you felt frustrated by that and felt like, gosh, like this whole social media thing is so annoying. It's all about vanity. It's all about metrics. And I think a lot of times we can get really frustrated because there's a loss of humanity in the way that so many of us have gone about building and living our digital lives. And my guest today is going to share a really, really important, timely perspective on what digital citizenship is today and what you need to be thinking about, not only today, but also in the coming years in terms of growing your brand, how you show up online. And I'll tell you a little bit about her in a moment, but I do want to say that if you take the time to listen to this interview, you are going to be so well informed in what's coming down the pipeline with the biggest social media channels and platforms that a lot of people don't know about yet. You need to pay attention and listen to what my guest Tracy has to say. So I'll share with you just a little bit about my guest Tracy Levine. And before I tell you kind of like her official bio, she's someone who I've had the pleasure of working with as a client for close to a year now. I've worked with her and her husband Michael on their brands, and she always blows me away with her insider knowledge of what's happening at the major corporations. And between you and me, I think that she may secretly be in the CIA. I don't know, but there's a level of knowledge and insight this woman has about what's going on, what we need to be paying attention to for our business growth, that it's just incredible. But just so you can know a little bit more about who Tracy is and what she does, she is the chairman of a company called Advantage Talent. And basically what she does, now this is again her language, so for those of you who speak this kind of language, this is going to make a lot of sense. For me, it took me a moment because sometimes I'm a little slower than others, but she provides data-driven human capital management and professional branding. Basically, she helps companies make decisions on how to best lead and manage their people through the use of data. And then she helps also brand professionals to be relevant, to be influential, to be in demand. And her whole company, her and her husband Michael's whole company, is really about innovation. It's about what's coming next. It's about how to best work with the people on your teams and your company to build upon their strengths, to stay ahead of the curve. That's company tagline. She's also a keynote speaker and consultant. She's been featured in Fox, CNN, ABC, CBS, NBC. I mean, you name it, she's been there. But she is someone who is truly passionate about helping you and me and everyone who interacts with her learn how to best leverage social media and their digital presences and footprints to grow their brand, do it the right way, and do it in a way that is conscious and focused on the greater good of all. So I think some of the biggest takeaways or highlights that you're going to get from today's interview with Tracy include just what some of the biggest changes are that are coming down the pipeline at the biggest social media platforms, really companies in the world: Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, even Google. You probably are not familiar with these changes yet, but they're going to impact you. We also talk about what's the future of metrics like likes on social media. What do you need to be paying attention to? And she also shares really one of the best ways that you can be spending your time today on social media that you're probably not thinking about and you're probably not intentionally doing. So, this interview is going to be a game changer for those of you who care not only about growing your business and how to best show up and represent your brand online through best practices with digital citizenship, but also about making, for those of you who care about making a greater impact and who really care about having your business do good in the world and having the way that you show up and your presence do good in the world. And I know that for the vast majority of you listening to this, that is something that you care about because that's part of what the show is all about. So you're going to learn so much about digital citizenship, the future of social media, and how we can best show up and engage and make an impact with our brands online for today and for years to come. So, Tracy, I can't wait to share this interview with the world. And for those of you who are listening, get ready to learn, to take notes, to think differently about the way that you run the digital arm of your life in your business in my interview with Tracy Levine. Tracy, it is so good to have you on the Instant Impact podcast today. Thank you for joining me.
Elyse, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be talking with you today about digital citizenship.
Well, one of the things that comes to mind for me when I think about you and just our conversations and getting to know you better over this past year is you are one of the most forward thinking, innovative people that I have ever met. And it's permeated throughout your entire life. But one of the things that I love just in our conversations, what I'm excited to bring to the table today is this kind of forward thinking conversation about digital citizenship, why it matters, what we need to be thinking about for those of us who are visible on social media. And you always have these insights and these, it's kind of like insider knowledge that most people don't know, specifically about LinkedIn, but also just about our digital presences in general. So I think we're going to get, for the listeners today, just so many good insights they wouldn't have anywhere else about what they should be thinking for their digital brands and their online presences. So with all of that said, you were the first person I ever heard this term digital citizenship from. And either I'm late to the game or you're super progressive and cool and made it up. I don't know which one it is. But I would love if you could share with the listeners, what does it mean and why does it matter?
Well, the reason, first of all, digital citizenship is just citizenship. And everything that you learn from your parents, from church, from school about what it means to be a good citizen is what we should be doing online, because what is so exciting about having a digitally connected global world is we have the opportunity to solve complex problems, listen to each other, make a positive impact. And if you look at corporate America, one of the things they're talking about is conscious capitalism. And conscious capitalism means that it's not, the profits at the end are not the only motive, that we need to be mindful that capitalism thrives in a society globally and locally when we value all the stakeholders, and the civil communities in which we work in brings up all stakeholders, because it's only as healthy as the weakest stakeholders. And so what Digital Citizen truly is about is helping others who may not have the same resources as you to lift them up. And so last year, corporate America announced that the biggest skill that was missing was communications, and which sounds silly because I feel like we all communicate pretty well. But what they mean by communication is digital citizenship. And Facebook, Google, and a whole bunch of the top companies have guaranteed that they will touch 1 million students and teach them the new meaning of digital citizenship and how to communicate, and graduate them in 2021, so that we have a new group of citizens who understand how to be civil and communicate, and bring all of your civics lessons online to this great community that has switched from a marketing platform to a platform of positive power. And that's what's so exciting. And that's why I'm so passionate about this, because how awesome is it that you can meet all kinds of new people, get new ideas, and learn so much and work together to make a positive outcome to a lot of people in society.
So as you talk about it, I'm always thinking about translating into like layperson terms because that's how I think, right? So part of what I think I'm hearing you say, and you can tell me if this is right or wrong, but the internet in general has been like the Wild West, right? It's like there haven't really been rules about how do we communicate and how do we show up, and anybody can put out any sort of content they want. And what I think I'm hearing you say is it's almost not a reining in, but like setting some professional standards for how do we show up online and how do we communicate with others and how do we really leverage this platform to grow a global audience and community and serve and make our greatest impact in the world as well. Is
It
that
is. Think about how exciting it is that you could find experts and listen to them for free. I
Mhm.
mean, think about how exciting that whole part of that is, but part of that problem solving, the first part that the new definition deals with is that we have to be informed so that what we share, if you say you're an expert, be valid. Make sure that what you put out is truthful, that it's researched with fact, not just opinion. And make sure that what you're putting out there within that community makes it a safe community. And what that means is, depending on which social media platform you're on, be mindful of what each platform's goals are. Are you meeting the goals of making this the community that people feel good and it's healthy? And the reason why that's important is part of the capital consciousness pledge, which you're going to hear in the news more and more about making all stakeholders healthy and wealthy and safe places, is you have to make sure that what you're doing is making it a safer place, not making it a place where they show now the reason why they're getting rid of all the likes and stuff is because we're seeing huge amounts of depression among the people who interact on platforms, to the social influencers themselves, because we've been taught to measure the wrong metrics. And so what they want to do is reset it so it's a safe, healthy place, that there's civil engagement. And if you look at the recent New York Times study, and anybody knows me like Elyse knows that I love numbers and research and data and finding out what's going on. And the two main reasons why people participate, it doesn't matter whether it's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, is to grow and nurture and network with people that they want to keep in touch with or get in front of it, but it's meaningful networking. And so what it's turned into is you used to go to a conference and a networking event, or you go to something in your community and you felt really good if you connected deeply with 2 or 3 people. And we've lost that. And so with 78% of the people looking to go on social media to make a meaningful connection, we have to pull back and make sure that the interactions that we're having online is meaningful. And then the second part is 69% of people go online for self-verification. And that's caused depression, because when you see, particularly on Instagram, beautiful pictures of beautiful people eating the most beautiful food, I want to eat with them. I'm like, why am I not at that dinner? It looks so good.
right? You only see those photos when you're like in your lowest moment, always.
I know, it's like, what happened here is I sent my sweatshirt and I'm eating ramen noodles because that was just what was easy to make. And so it's natural for humans to compare themselves. So what is happening, and this is all around the likes and social influence, there's a lot of depression, and it's now moving on to the professional networks, because it's natural to look, and you could say I'm there to make meaningful relationships, but it's easy to get caught up in, go, oh my gosh, they just got 1,000 likes, but you may have just won your biggest deal with just 2 likes, but somehow it's not enough. And so they're trying to reset it so that more people could find self-verification in all of their interactions on social media. And so that's been a huge change, and that's where it gets into digital citizenship, and being part of a community is being engaged with the community.
So a couple questions for you, just kind of clarifying questions. The first thing is, Who are they? Like when you say they are resetting, are we talking the major social media platforms? Like who's
Yeah.
manning the
Okay.
internet right now?
And here's Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and the education system, K through 12.
Got it.
They
Okay.
are teaching as a group. They have something called the Citizen Commitment, and 82 countries signed it. And their commitment is to create a safe community, because we now are interacting online, and it's awesome. And it is our new face-to-face, that we need to start bringing what we would do in a civil face-to-face society online. And so you have 82 education systems, K through 12. And I don't remember all the companies, except all the social media companies are involved. And it's all tied back to all stakeholders have to win, because when you set up systems where there are more takers than givers, the systems in the long run de-optimize. And we don't want the system to de-optimize, because truly, going back to what I said, I love being able to go online, see new people, new ideas, learn new things. And if we could get back to realizing that this is a community, which means digital citizenship is just about being all civil. Your citizenship lessons, it's not complicated.
Yeah. Well, and what I like about it, just kind of like simplifying it for me, and the way I think about it is there's something funny that happens when we get behind a computer screen or when we get behind the wheel of our car, where it's like all of a sudden we sometimes act in ways we would not act if we were face to face with someone. And whether it's like leaving a mean comment or, cutting someone off and flipping them off, it's like people feel like they can do things because they're somewhat anonymous, right? And so what I really like about this is it sounds like these countries and organizations, and some of the biggest players in the world have really recognized we have to find a way to bring humanity back
Yeah.
into the way people interact and network online. And I wanted to ask you something else too, because I think a lot of people won't know about this. So you mentioned that likes are going away in some areas, in some platforms. Can you tell us more about what's going on there? Because I think that's going to be new information for a lot of
Okay.
people.
Japan, Italy, Europe, pretty much every European nation has done away with likes on Instagram. And it's going to be rolling out on Facebook. And they've very boldly said, we're going to deal with the mental health crisis, because it has become a mental health crisis and it's leading to suicide. And it's not just the people comparing themselves to others, but part of, I think, people, at least the people I meet who are passionate about something, they get lots of ideas out. What has happened is they're losing their passion for getting their ideas out and starting to look to the left and the right and worrying about the likes, shares, and how many followers. And so they're also seeing a huge mental health crisis with a lot of the social influencers. So you have colleges like Oxford, you have colleges in the United States who are studying, why is this happening? How can we help people who are passionate about the messages they want to get out? But also, how do we help the 69% of the people who just want self-verification? And you have this ecosystem that was not been approached very, to your point, wild west. And they're trying to bring back in, nobody wants to go past the corner when you're walking to work across the person with the sign who's always screaming at you. And they want to take that sort of part out of it. And they want to maybe back to, in your life, the things that are most important to you in society are your meaningful relationships, the things that matter to you. And meaningful can be business relationships, it could be personal relationships, and going back to helping people understand how to measure those KPIs outside of what it started in marketing, and helping people become more powerful and get what they need for their self-verification, and also to grow and nurture the appropriate relationships. And business is an appropriate relationship, but personal relationships are important. And I love the idea that we need to stop blaming and pointing and not having a solution. And what's so awesome about this 82 country redefinition of civil citizenship, we're saying this can be really positive mental health wise. We can flip the switch by doing different behaviors. And it does tie in my background. I deal with executives and professional reputable reputations. And for them, the biggest skill that's being hired is the person who knows how to coach and mentor and engage others and do active listening. And I think this is a lot about what digital citizenship is teaching us to, yes, you could be passionate, because we love people who are passionate and get out and show their ideas, but we also need to be active listeners and see that we're also helping other people's have self-verification on their ideas and being heard.
Mm. Well, I love it because it puts the focus back on the most important thing. And this is one of the conversations that comes up so many times just in the work I do with clients who are focusing on growing their social platforms is oftentimes, and especially when people are, starting out and building, is they'll get so frustrated with, I'm putting content out there and people aren't engaging, they aren't liking it. They aren't like, why can't I get more people to watch my videos? Why can't I get more people to comment? And it becomes this cycle where it's like they're beating up on themselves, they're frustrated, it's very self-focused as well, right? Because the focus goes away from how can you just provide something of value to know how much validation am I going to get in the form of likes and comments. And one of the things I always kind of tell them is, look, at the end of the day, are there formulas? Yes. Are there like steps that you can follow? Yes. But if you cut out the human element from any of that, and if you take out, how would you actually connect with someone if you were at a networking event? Would you walk right up to them and say, hey, buy my thing? Or would you walk up and say, it's what we do on social media, right? It's what we do. It's like, hey, buy my thing. You want to connect? Buy my thing. If you don't, screw you. Bye. Right? And it's like, we would never do that in real life. We would never do that. And I actually shouldn't use the term real life because it is real life, but we would never do that one-to-one at a networking event. We would say, how are you? It's so nice to meet you. We would be interested in the other person. And so at the end of the day, I think we've made it way more complicated than it needs to be, but to me, it's just very interesting to see the platforms shifting away from some of those vanity metrics that can get us, they take our eyes off what really matters. And it's self-defeating. So what I'd love to hear from you, Tracy, is as we look into, 2020 and start thinking ahead, what are some of the best practices that people listening can start incorporating to be better digital citizens? What would you say, like, if you have a top list of things we should be thinking about or doing, what would you say we should be considering and making sure we integrate into our social media strategy?
Well, for those who have a social media strategy, you need to be aware that the platforms are punishing people who post more than once a day.
Mm.
They automatically trend you down, both your posts.
Is that, I got to pause you real quick. Is that every platform or is that certain platforms, or do you know?
It's every platform because we've now turned them into communities. And in order for it to be a healthy community, just like the pledge that the CEOs sign, every stakeholder has to win. And if the two reasons why people go on social media is to grow meaningful relationships and to get self-verification, if people post all day long, there's no room for the majority of people to get self-verification. So if you, for example, I'll give you on LinkedIn, they're one of the ones that if you see their trending articles and their trends that they send out to people daily, there are never any social influencers on them. They're always people who, if you were to go look at their profiles, they're not on there every day. Mm-hmm. When they do post, they typically post something of interest. And the reason why they're spotlighting them is they're posting on somebody else's post. And so they're trying to work on good behavior. And on Facebook, even with your personal Facebook, let's take it out of the business. What the new digital citizenship is asking you to think about is to be balanced when you post. is there a reason to post a quote on anything every day? And the answer is no. So when you get tempted to post a quote, what they would rather you do is go find somebody who's not in your pod, who's not influential, not something that you're trying to get somebody else to give you something, to truly go engage and self-verify to these people that people are actively listening and care, that they have ideas. And it's a great business decision to go in and reach outside of people that you normally wouldn't interact with, people that you don't think are what they're trying to break up is, in school, the popular group. And you see a lot of what they call pods, and they're trying to break the pods up, because as long as we have pod communications and we only like, share, and comment on a small group of people that we've decided is important to us socially and are important to us in business, we're not making the platform healthy. Because the bigger thing is, you're trying to give resources that help other people get self-verification, feel heard, and have meaningful interactions. And so one of the biggest takeaways for anybody who has a professional brand is, once people know your name, they call it something diminishing returns. So now they're looking at your emotional IQ and how willing you are to make these platforms healthy for all stakeholders. And so they're really encouraging people to take that moment. Yes, you will always get lots of likes. And I'll tell you, I've put quotes up, I've put things up, and it, from a selfish position, it feels really good. I'm not going to tell you it doesn't feel good when everybody likes and shares what you do, but the healthier response that leads to a healthy mental health for everybody involved and long-term optimization is take the time to go comment on somebody else. You may or may not know them, who don't have as robust of a network, and show them that they're being heard. Give them respectfulness. And that's even in your personal feeds. Sometimes, I joke about it. I don't necessarily, it doesn't resonate with me, some of the values that people put up there and what they're doing, but value them for what they're doing and say, that's very interesting. I did this the other day on Facebook. It's great that your church barbecue went really well. It's not personal to me, but I want them to understand, I see that they're doing things that are authentic to them. And it's awesome that it was successful. And taking that moment to not post something that's really, going to get attention, and being very balanced and thinking, okay, it's my turn to active listen and validate somebody else. And that's a great personal and professional brand.
So one of the questions that shows up for me while you talk about this is, it's like, what's the end game? So right now, and I think the way people have typically behaved online is they try to put out content that's going to grow their engagement, give them more exposure, get more people looking at their content, get shares. But if the platforms are optimizing away from that a little bit, which is part of what's the end game? Is it that if I go and I interact with someone who has a smaller platform and show true interest in them, I'm actually going to get better engagement on my content? Like the platforms will show me more, or to me, I'm just kind of
what's going to happen?
What's going to happen with this? Yeah.
What's going to happen is the platforms are going to survive. Because if we continue down this path, the platforms are going to get disrupted. And one of two things are going to happen with the disruption. As people know, in order to get a job, by 2021, everybody has to be on social media platforms to get hired. And if they can't be heard above everybody else, or they feel like it has to be a full-time job, they're going to create another platform. And that's healthy and safe and has a outcome that all stakeholders win. So what they're doing is, the biggest part of digital citizenship, and the fifth thing, is they're talking about inclusiveness. And what inclusiveness means is that you have to look at this global economy that's changing and transforming. More people are going to be freelancers. more people, corporations are going to be competing with a larger global group. And part of inclusiveness is making sure that you share your resources and your network with everybody. And in the past, particularly like on a platform like LinkedIn, everybody thought it was a little black book. Well, it really isn't, because AI can find anybody, and their whole thing is inclusiveness. Now, why inclusiveness? It's sort of selfish too. I mean, they want it to be healthy, and we want the feel good of bringing everybody up. But in a global community, in order for us to win as a society, if we stay linear and do things the way we used to do them, we get disrupted by customers we didn't see that were non-traditional, that make another company bigger than ours. We get disrupted by companies that were not even in our field, because we never even thought to ask the question, what is the bigger picture and how is this going to be approached? And that's what happened to GE. They were linear, they were focused, they were known for the #1 training program. And because they did not stop and have the global discussions and see what was going on to solve bigger problems, other people disrupted them and solved the bigger problems. And you have so many subject matter experts that if we're inclusive, everybody could pivot, transform, and make sure they're ahead of the curve of being in their field. But we can also raise up more people. And the more people we raise up to be successful in this community, because it is community. I'm going to go back. Digital citizenship is about civic duty. And we are only as healthy in that environment as our weakest members. And so if we can turn it to the positive platform that it truly can be, and get it out of being a mental health issue crisis where Europe is getting ready to ban, and a lot of hotels and stuff have banned social influencers because of the negative mental health issue and the crisis it's become. We're not using the platform correctly, because we don't need to be banning people. We need to train people. It's awesome. I love people who are passionate about what they do, but let's help them be passionate in a way that they also help others who want to have self-verification and have meaningful relationships.
I love it. I love it. Well, one of the things I'm just thinking about, how can people be better at this, and how can we start thinking about it and getting trained? And one of the things that you shared with me when we were chatting before recording is this LinkedIn +1 pledge. And I'd love to hear from you more about what that is. Why does it matter? How can we get involved? Tell us more about that.
LinkedIn 2 months ago sent out an email to businesses that they felt can make a difference and help open up their resources, expertise, and knowledge to take the LinkedIn +1 challenge, which we did behind the scenes. And what you do is you take your expertise and give it to a group of people who may not have the resources, time, or money to have access to that expertise. And I'll give you an example. A lot of the mid-size accounting firms, and you won't see it on LinkedIn because their big thing was, it's not something for marketing. It's something you do in the physical world. You take what you have online and take it back out. So there are a lot of accounting firms. If you go on to their website now, you'll see a tab that says, we've taken the LinkedIn +1 pledge. And what that means is we'll connect with people outside of our network. We will share our time, resources, and they make everything public so people can see it, and they answer questions. And so every month they will take in a certain number of people and give a free hour of setting up your accounting with your small business. You're seeing people, whatever their expertise, whether it's lawyers, you're seeing law firms behind the scenes saying, hey, I get it. We have more freelancers, small businesses, and we want to help. Every month, once again, we will spend, depending on the law firm, 30 minutes to an hour every month to X number of people. Just sign up here. It's free. We're not selling you anything. Bring your question. And you're seeing firms like us who are trying to help parents understand that digital citizenship is nothing to be frightened of. It's not about do's and don'ts. It's about being civil. And we're also teaching career coaching to parents and students in a changing environment. So what we did is we started off through Facebook, and we put out a pledge, a two-pronged pledge. We gave free coupons to the first 50 people who write, and we're going to continue to do this every month, who connect with me either on Facebook or LinkedIn to help parents and students go through our course online for free to help them get clarity around how to plan a job in this changed environment and how to set up the first social media professional brand page in a way that gets them the goal they want around colleges and internship. And then even though the Digital Citizenship Pledge with all these companies in 82 countries was for K, they call it through 20, which is through college, we decided to take it to adults. It was amazing. We gave away, we put 40 out thinking nobody knows what digital citizenship is, but 80 people within 30 minutes took us up on learning about what digital citizenship is. And we want to continue to do this. And with people who listen to the podcast and write to me and use Elyse Archer's name, I will give people who listen to this podcast 40 free coupons for adults and 40 free coupons for students each month, as long as you connect with me on either LinkedIn or Facebook and mention Elyse, because we're very passionate about it. And if anybody needs help setting up their LinkedIn plus one, I would be more than happy to take 15, 20-minute calls and help you brainstorm on how you can help others, bring them up with your resources and networks that they may not have access to.
I adore all of that. And what a generous offer as well. So thank you, because I know people are going to want to take you up on that.
Yeah.
And with the LinkedIn Plus One challenge, where can people go to find out about that? Do we just Google it? Like, how do we find out where to get involved? I know you also generously offered to help people, so thank you. And I know you're busy and you probably can't help everyone who's going to reach out to you.
Well, what you could do, LinkedIn actually has a page, and you sign up and they'll ask you, what is your passion area? And what that means, do you want to help, what type of people do you want to help? Do you want to help disadvantaged children, adults? And they give you a whole list of people that you could reach out and help with the project. And the whole point is making this a platform for good. And Facebook is doing it through the K through 20 with their program with Google. And the whole point of all of these pledges is healthy communities are thriving communities. And when we take into an account all the stakeholders and give and teach them how to be part of this platform and model giving, we all win. And it's such a powerful way to solve problems, be coaches, mentors, and it's good business. And it's a good professional brand. It's a good personal brand, and it's important. And I'm passionate about it, as you could tell. And let's lift everybody up. Let's use our resources and check all of this out, and go to LinkedIn for the LinkedIn Plus One Pledge. And you could also go to, it's called DigiCityCom. It's like a hashtag. I'm trying to make sure I don't mess it up. But if you look up the digital citizenship new definition, there's a whole web page on how you can help K through 20. If you're on Instagram or Facebook or some of the more personal entertainment type social media platforms, there are ways that you could participate in that hashtag and help people be part of this give, because when we all give, we all win, and we all meet our goals. And that's my passion, and the reason why I'm talking about something, to Elise's point. People are like, oh, you do digital citizenship. It's a weird concept, that is just now finding its legs as we're all interconnected and doing more of our interaction online.
Well, thank you for helping to bring more light to it, because I think it really is. It's not just something that's going to affect us in our lifetimes, but it's going to affect generations moving forward. And so I really just want to say thank you to you for how you are spearheading this and taking the time to do this. And I think you're a great example of someone, regardless of, for people who are listening, regardless of how busy you are, you can always make time for what matters.
Yes.
And this is something that truly matters. And so I know you and I talked offline about me taking the pledge. I will commit to taking the pledge. I'm super excited about it, and thank you too, just for sharing about it. Because I think a lot of people who are listening are going to be finding out about it for the first time here. But this podcast is all about the fact that we can make an instant impact in our brands and our lives by being more generous, by giving more of ourselves, by sharing more of who we are with the world. And this is such a fantastic way for people to do that. So thank you for that. And I'll close by, so we'll include your social links in the show notes so people can go, they can find you on social at Tracy Levine, right?
Yes.
We'll include the links in the show notes. And then just any final words of wisdom, anything I haven't asked you that you want to share with people who are looking to make a greater impact in the world through good digital citizenship.
Think about how exciting it is when somebody you don't know comments on, say, your podcast, or somebody you don't know comments on a social media post, whether it's personal or professional, and take that feeling and stop for a moment when you're getting ready to post and think, when's the last time I made somebody else feel as good as I feel when I'm acknowledged for my ideas? It doesn't cost you money, and it doesn't take a lot of time to change somebody's day by commenting, acknowledging, self-verifying that you hear them, you see what they're doing, and you're acknowledging what they're doing, and you appreciate that they shared it. And it's so simple, but I promise you it makes a healthier system. And we all want to be in a safe, healthy environment online. And it's not something that can't be done in a really short period of time with minor tweaks.
Mm. Thank you so much, Tracy. My heart is warm. I'm excited about what's possible. And it's so important for people to know how to do this, how to be good digital citizens moving forward, and how to really encourage and uplift other people with the technology that we're blessed to have access to. So thank you so much for everything you shared. I appreciate it so much.
Well, I'm excited, and thank you for letting me get on here and help the corporations. They're getting to 1 million students, but I want to get to 1 million adults. And so thank you for giving me this platform to help get 1 million adults on board with the digital citizenship movement.
My pleasure.